welcome, episode 14 of this show, of season 6 of Behind the Screen. Those of you who are maybe unfamiliar with the show, it's community content creation, focused on the community content platforms that Honest Path support. So things like Canis Minor, Sluritian Vault, which is what this show is for, Storyteller's Vault, which is, I guess, more of a Paradox thing, but there we go. Storypath Nexus, that kind of thing. So rather than actual gameplay, what I'll be doing is I'll be demonstrating how I go about writing content for, in this case, the 5e OGL and Scarred Lands material. Hopefully to provide an interesting point of view, to stimulate your own ideas, give you alternatives if you are stuck to certain things. As you can see next to my head, kind of where here-ish, please do feel free to ask anything that you want to. I am not an official representative of Honest Path. Everything that I say in this show is, it's my opinion. I am a fan with a platform, and as usual, I'm immeasurably grateful to Honest Path for the opportunity to do this for the 44th time, give or take. But you can see my name is Ryan, Conrad Bubbles. If you are particularly interested, my pronouns are they, them, but it rarely comes up. I am disabled. I do experience muscle spasms. It can make typing difficult. It can make talking difficult. And sometimes I can't actually always control where my head is facing. So it can make viewing difficult. I apologize in advance. But as I said, it can make talking difficult as well, which is the most common thing while I'm streaming. It can lead to stuttering and slurred speech. I do also struggle with multiple trains of thought. So I will try to follow one to its end, however digressive it gets. Before moving on to the next one, I will generally try to acknowledge questions that I've seen in chat, and if they're quick, I'll answer them then and then resume. If they require a longer explanation, I will reach the end of my current train of thought and then jump on to the next one. Apologies for that if you ask a long question. I do generally see all of them. Certainly while the show has such a small viewership, and I answer all the questions that I can. If I don't know the answer, I will try to point you to somewhere or someone who does. Okay, so that's all that. As usual, the first thing to do is discuss the Monday meeting notes. Again, if you're unaware of what the Monday meeting notes are, Monday meeting notes is a weekly update about how Honest Path as a company is doing. The projects they've got in the timeline, that kind of thing, and the pipeline, that kind of thing. They come out, unsurprisingly, on the Monday evening after the Monday meeting. So I get to read them, just after waking up just before this show. The big takeaway from today's Monday meeting notes is that on Friday, July the 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the next Kickstarter is going live. It will be Squeaks in the Deep, which adds mice and rats to the Realms of Pugmire games. Not just any mice and rats, but potentially psionic mice and rats. Steeple's fingers looks suspicious. So on top of dogs, cats, birds, and reptiles, obviously mice and rats gives you a lot. Gives you a 7th and 8th playable option for your Pugmire games. It's also looking at the. It's also mega dungeons and the underground civilizations for the realms of Pugmire. Where everything before has been very much above ground, or the Acid Sea in the case of the Pirates of Pugmire. This is underground mega dungeons, stuff about the cult of Labotor, etc., etc. It's also probably reading, the information provided going to be a very different relationship to man when compared to / with, based on personal preference, dogs and cats. Okay, so that's Squeaks. There's obviously plenty of detail on Squeaks in the notes. That's just the horrid version. The Rich Bastard's Guide to Magic for the 20th anniversary edition Mage is available going to be available for pre-order on DriveThruRPG. It's the first pre-order PDF thing that Honest Path have done. So it's quote, "It's a bit of an experiment to see if folks would be able to lock in a PDF of a book when they see it. and then receive the link as soon as it is available. Obviously, Onyx Path at the minute trying to look at other ways of crowdfunding and stuff like that beyond Kickstarter, like Indiegogo campaign they ran for Victorian Mage, I think it was. So this is just another like kind of investigative revenue stream. Some questions are again answered in the Monday meeting notes if you have any about that. Obviously, the comments section, and there's also the Onyx Path Discord. We are now in July, so Drive-Thru RPG's premium print-on-demand books have gone up in price to reflect rising costs around the world. So unfortunately, there's that. And also, as it is now July, you cannot buy V5 books from the Onyx Path Drive-Thru page. Renegade have signed on by Paradox to handle coordination and management of all V5 sales. So all of the Onyx Path V5 Vampire Masquerade 5th edition books are now hosted on the Renegade page of Drive-Thru RPG. So go there for V5 goodness. Does not affect Chronicles of Darkness, Exalted, or the 20th anniversary stuff. It is explicitly for V5. And also, just in case you're curious, it's Vampire the Masquerade's 30th anniversary. So that's cool. Get hyped for that, I guess. And then there's the usual Twitch schedule. The show on after this is Mage the Awakening at 5 p.m. Eastern, so I've got a bit of slippage time if I need it. The panels from Onyx Path's virtual gaming convention are going up on YouTube. A lot of them are up there now. They're all linked in the Monday meeting notes if you're interested in watching them. What else? The Christmas and July sale on Drive-Thru RPG is coming soon, so keep an eye out for discounted Onyx Path PDFs there. Next source book for Trinity Continuum Aeon is now out under Alien Skies. Adds aliens, or expands upon aliens. And project updates. There's nothing particularly for Scarred Lands, but second draft, so after Red Lines, but before development, is the next They Came From game line. They Came From the Cyclops Cave. Some more tasty bits being worked on in various stages. And I think that's it. I did see there was the Gauntlets of Spirogos stuff somewhere. Oh, in layout, Spirogos Collection Adventures, so I assume that's the Gauntlet and Dagger or whatever it is. Like, quick start stuff. But there we go. That's the Monday meeting notes in a nutshell. No Kickstarter link today because the Kickstarter is not live. But obviously, if you watch many shows on this channel, a lot of them will be promoting the Kickstarter for perhaps obvious reasons. Okay, so recap. This is a player options supplement. Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Let's cover the acronyms. So, back to basics again for people who may not know. So, Scarred Lands is a campaign setting that uses the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition OGL or Open Gaming License or OGL as its core rule set. The OGL allows you to use the rules presented in the System Reference Document, the SRD, to power your games. It means that you can focus on the setting without having to touch the mechanics if that's the kind of thing you don't particularly don't have time, or don't want, or don't have the money to do. It's something that Dungeons and Dragons has had for a while, and the original Scarred Lands, I believe, came out for the 3.5 OGL. This is for the 5th edition OGL, in case that needs specifying. I only work in 5th edition, I don't touch 3.5. And the Sluretian Vault, which is what the fancy schmancy logo beneath my webcam is at the bottom of the overlay, is a community content platform where you can write material for Scarred Lands and any of the supported settings. So right now, Gelspad, which is the default setting, included in the player's guide, and the Frostlands of Fenrilic, which is the continent, which is what this show is for. Fenrilic is the northern Arctic continent and was largely left alone by the events of the Divine War, which I'm just going to simplify it and say broke Skarn, which is the planet, and Gelspad in particular. So I'm not making particular reference to the Divine War throughout all of this, and the Redeemed and Titansborn. But, it may come up, it may not. We'll see, because that is the joy of creation. A large part of this season has been showing how you can take the narrative of up until this point a subclass or a spell, and put it into mechanical terms. Sometimes it's taken a bit longer than I'd like. Sometimes it's been far swifter than I expected. But overall, I hope it's been a decent balance of mechanical weight to the subclasses, reflecting the narrative of the subclass. Last time I did spells, if I recall correctly, I'm not hallucinating. I did do spells right. I did a cantrip, a first level, a second level, and a third level. Or was it just cantrip 1 and 2? No, and there's the third level. Yeah, so I did 4 spells last time. Oop. I'm trying to just get formatting correct. We're not doing more. I'm probably not going to add more spells. I'll be honest. Not live anyway. If I have a cool idea for one, cool, get it, optic, anyway. I will add it to the document. Side note, I did not expect this document to be 31 pages and counting when I started this project. I really should tackle less ambitious projects on the show, because then I can cover more material. But I believe in doing a proper job and demonstrating everything that it occurs to me to demonstrate, shall we say. But today we're dealing with player peoples, formerly known as races. But race is obviously a slightly loaded, weighty term to be throwing around. So player people in Scarred Lands. Fortunately, unlike in the SRD, the Scarred Lands player guide handily titles paragraphs, so you know roughly what each paragraph is about. The SRD gives you like cute evocative titles, so I'll give you an example so you know what I'm on about. Where did my SRD go? There it is. So let's see. Oh, it doesn't even give you those. Cool. Doesn't even give you any narrative on the race. Okay, so the D&D Player's Handbook gives you like history and descriptions and the narrative side of a race, basically of a people. Sorry. I should point out, I may slip and say ancestry because I use ancestry for my own 5e compatible material. But if I say race or ancestry, I do mean people. I'm going to apologize in advance for any slip-ups. But anyway, it includes the narrative of the people rather than the mechanical weight of mechanical effects, and it's things like hale and hearty. I don't know if that's an actual example, but it could fit. Whereas the Scarred Lands Player Guide eschews the descriptive titles and simply gives us such wonderful things as physical description and society, which, as someone who's writing community content, is extremely useful because you know how to match the established formula of the game line that you're writing for without having to do too much comprehension. I mean, sure, yes, you can figure out that this paragraph relates to the people's history, this paragraph relates to their physical description, etc. But having it spelled out is really nice and extremely useful, it turns out. Who knew? So that's why I've got history, physical description, society, relations, alignment, and religion, adventurers, and names there. Full disclosure, the history one isn't. There is a paragraph relating to the people's history, but it's not. And creation, but it's not labeled history. I've just put that there as a prompt so I don't forget. And I will probably not handle names on stream because I suck at naming. It's incredibly annoying. as like the forever GM, but I'm terrible at naming on the fly. So I will probably not come up with example names for the player people on stream. That'll be a purely off stream thing. Also, please note that every people gets these 4 traits as default: ability score increase, age, size, and speed. Those are not the same, obviously, between each option, but they always have those 4 things to start their traits section, which is the mechanical side of the character, of the player people. And when I get down to that bit, I will be going off. It shouldn't be too long, but I'll be explaining a couple of things about, changing your style to reflect the style of the game, if I remember. If I don't, can someone please prompt me, because I feel like it's important, especially when working with community content creation. Okay, I'm going to have some water, and then we're going to get started with the Geist. Or Geists, plural, I guess. Okay, so roughly how much do I need to write? I think it's like 4 lines, slightly more than that. Let's aim for like 5 or 6 lines per section. That seems about comparable. Okay, as ever, as always, please do feel free to interrupt me with questions. This episode / stream is also likely to have how to put this, a lot of downtime as I think about what to say, because these things, unlike with a subclass where I've just got the class feature name to work with, I'll be fine once I get to the mechanical side of things. But sometimes I like to take my time with the narrative side of things. I'll try to keep dead air to a minimum. I will try to talk and think in the background, but I can't promise anything, because I do want to do the best job I can for hopefully obvious reasons. However, that is not to say that you should not ask questions. And as usual, again, the webcam's going to shake because the monitor it's perched on isn't terribly stable. I can't do anything about that. I do apologize. I will try to hit the keys as lightly as possible, but it still might cause issues. Apologies in advance. Okay, so the history section gives you the history of the people, I guess. There's no 2 ways about it. I'll just check a couple of examples. Yep, that is exactly what it does. So I'll minimize that so I can see chat again. Chat's on my lower monitor, so if I flick my eyes downwards or look downwards, that's what I'm looking at. I figured it's just easier to keep the document I'm working at on the same monitor as the webcam, so it looks sort of like I'm addressing the camera. Oh, also, I guess I don't mention it that often, but if you want to ask questions about streaming role-playing stuff, I do that from time to time as well, so please feel free to ask about that as well. Okay, so why is that bold? Never mind. No one truly knows the origins of the Geists, although many scholars suspect that the wild energies of Fenrilik and the other lost places of the world play a part in resurrecting these fallen souls. Souls is the wrong word. Adventurers is also the wrong word, because it might not be an adventurer's soul. Travelers. I am also British, if you can't tell, so I will be using British English, which Google Docs is usually okay with, but occasionally it freaks out, so there's that. Geists have wandered polar wastes for centuries, although their numbers are increasing. Have been increasing, I should say. Have been increasing in recent years. Please, line break, thank you. They have no centralized civilization. Each member of this people drifts according to their own whims and rarely cooperate is the wrong word. Team up is the wrong word because it's interact. There we go. Rarely interact with each other when they do meet. Right. I really quickly, I should say, need to check the map of Fenrilik. I'm going to posit, like, Geists seem drawn to this area for a reason no one understands kind of thing, as a potential story hook, because even though I am still writing the narrative to a player people, there's nothing saying you can't have story hooks in the narrative of the player people. I thought there was a map of Fenrilik. Hang on. Title page, copyright page, contents page. Is it in the adventure? I'm pretty sure there's a map somewhere. Pretty sure I remember seeing a map of Fenrilik in this PDF. There it is. It's almost the last thing in the PDF. Ooh, let's put them there. Okay, yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with that. Documents and records kept by adventurers and inhabitants of Fenrilik seem to suggest that many Geists are drawn to a frozen forest several days travel northwest of Belar, although no Geist has been able to explain why. So if I put this into 2 columns, because I can totally do that, I think, maybe. Is there a column tool? Hang on. The player, they don't use columns in the player's guide. They do not. Never mind, ignore that. That's about the right amount of text. A little bit of mystery. Their numbers are increasing, but why? They've drawn to this place, but why? I probably should resurrecting these fallen travelers. Like, that kind of explains that they're dead, because Geists are dead. So I will get rid of the history prompt because that's not actually included in the player's guide. Physical description. I think it's roughly about the same amount of information for each player people option, right? Yeah, physical description is like 2 or 3 sentences. A paragraph, essentially. Okay. Okay, so my going through while I was talking at the start of the stream and unbolding everything did not work, so that's great. I'm going to have to remember to press Control B every time. Physical description. Geists appears pale. Almost spectral apparitions. Physically, they resemble the people they were born into. That's the wrong way of phrasing it. But most appear as... No, that's the wrong way of phrasing it. That too. Physically, they resemble the people they were born into. But with the unmistakable signs of undeath. I had 3 heritages in mind for this. What was it? Predation, exposure, and starvation. So I guess predation would be the most physical, and then exposure probably be the most spiritual. Geists arising from predation are the most physically hale members of this people. With vivid crimson eyes and jagged scars covering their pale flesh. Those caused by starvation are typically tall and thin, seeming almost stretched beyond the boundaries of their former body. And guess it's nope, that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing Geists. What have I got? Arising, caused, I'll get born of exposure. Seem to float through the world. They're frost. I'm just gonna say they're extremities, because I want it to be. So my goal here is to have options that you could feasibly find across the entirety of Scarn, but obviously inspired by Fenrilic, because that's the release that this is all tying into. So I want it to be like, hey, we're in a desert, but you can have a Geist come, from that desert rather than from Scarn, from Fenrilic, sorry. Their extremities, twisted beyond belief, and their ethereal flesh glowing with an unnatural light. Okay, so that's that. Society paragraph is usually about the same. And I have bamboozled myself by saying that they have no society, so let's get this figured out, shall we? Geists do not form a society naturally. Are not in on those few occasions, I was going to say few rare occasions, but few and rare is kind of the same thing. I don't know why I put two S's in occasions. On those few occasions where Geists have banded together for mutual benefit and support, there has been no discernible hierarchy or government's the wrong word. I mean, fact of the matter is this paragraph's not going to be very long because they don't have a society, but still. Let's just say civic structure. Created in the wake of their partnership. Many of those aware of the Geists hold the belief that, given the chance, they would simply recreate the civilization of their birth people. Crampex slaves who have engaged with the few Geists captured by the Scare escaped. It is Crampec, right? I'm not being silly. I've done that before on this show. Folk of Fenrilic, yeah, it is Crampec. Escaped Crampec slaves who have engaged with the few guys captured by the Scare tell tales of even symbiotic melding of Geists, yes, Geists again, to create a collective mind. We'll just say to create a collective. Relations. Unsurprisingly, given the already adverse conditions of Fenrilic, many of the people that encounter Geists do so with an instinctive fear and revulsion. For their part, Geists hold no ill will towards the living. I really should have checked how these things are usually structured. Geists are a bit weird. They're more conceptual, I'll admit. The other option I'm going with, the Ursid, their people, will be a lot more conventional. Yeah, so relations is how people view Geists as well as how Geists view other people. So let's split this up slightly. Many of the people that should not be pluralized that encounter Geists do so with an instinctive fear and revulsion. That's if, not once. I don't know what that word is supposed to be. If they manage to overcome this, they find most Geists to be cool and dispassionate. single-minded in their goals and capable of ignoring most distractions. This is cool. You think you get the guy? Hey, Kitman42, Kiltman42. That is a good joke. I'm glad you get the Geist of this people. For their parts, guys, hold no ill will towards the living. Content to be left alone in their. It's not seemingly aimless, because I've said that they're single-minded in their goals. Inscrutable. There we go. I should also correct that to continue left alone to their inscrutable wanderings. Greetings from a pun master. That's what we like to see. Revive the lost art. Putting puns onto lost art. Let's face it, puns will never be a lost art. As long as someone needs a birthday card, puns will not be a lost art. But I highly encourage puns. Puns are a great expression of creativity. Contented left alone through inscrutable wanderings, Geists will happily form alliances with other peoples, and those few who help a Geist, as long as they're a father, puns will be a parent. That's true. That's true. I also see what you did there. In which, unless it was unintentional, in which case I see the potential for a pun there. Those who help a Geist to achieve their goals will find a companion for life. That was intentional. Excellent. Excellent. That doesn't seem right. Struggle to find a more steadfast companion. There we go. Unfortunately, Geists do not innately understand the concept of civilization. Hey, Google Chrome, Google Docs, don't do that to me. You let me keep the S earlier. Don't give me the Z now. Do not innately understand the concept of civilization, and many, upon entering a city for the first time, seek the quietest place they can find to process the overwhelming stimulation. Hey, it me. I feel seen by my own work. Alignment and religion. This is going to be interesting. Let's look at the Folk of Fenrilik, see what they've got, see what the examples are here. So breakdown of Eshek religion. Okay. I guess technically it'd be Ushidani, if anything, but I don't feel like there's any religion here. So, maybe there is. Maybe we use the religion section as another plot hook, or story seed, I should say. Whilst the vast majority of Geists do not openly worship any of the gods or titans. Some do speak of a voice in the snow. You know what? Let's capitalize this. Let's make it seem important. Some do speak of a voice in the snow, claiming that it called them back from the brink of death in order to fulfill some unexplained purpose. They believe that by achieving the goals that arise... No. They believe that when they complete their final task, whatever it may be, the voice of the snow will allow them to rest once more. And then alignment. Geists have no unifying... well, neutral. I guess it must be neutral, actually thinking about it. Most Geists fall in the neutral area. How would I phrase this? Are there any pre-existing examples I can pinch? How to phrase this? How to phrase this? Lingering, that's not a word. Lingering remnants of the Geists. Of a Geist, sorry. Former self can bias them towards the towards good, neutral. How is this? You know what? I'm just gonna take the wording from the supplement. That's just way easier. Can bias the Geist's position on the good, neutral, or evil axis. However, most sorry, there's a stutter. However, most Geists what is it? There is a... I'm pretty sure the game does give it... Like, there is an official terminology for whether you're, you know, lawful, neutral, or chaotic. Dang it. Trend towards... being true neutral, as their concerns are more for the as they are less concerned with the needs of civilization or themselves, and generally act in accordance with the environment around them. Does that work? I think that works. Adventurers. I mean, I know I said I wasn't going to do names on stream, but I can cheat with the name section because they're just almost all Geists will have either the name that they had in life, or they will take a name for themselves based on what they see. Adventurers. Oops. Almost all Geists are adventurers. With no civilization to call their own and driven by a need to complete goals they do not fully understand. It is rare for a Geist to remain in a single place for more than a few weeks. What else do the books use for adventurers? I mean, obviously, it's like why I feel I should explain. It's why they adventure. It's why that members of that people choose to adventure. I mean, I guess that's really it. Some Geists admit to a need to seek company among the living, whilst others believe that they will only be able to achieve their goals with the aid of others. The rare Geist who avoids the adventuring life I don't want them to just die. Let's say stagnates and is pitted by other Geists for their inability to complete the task given to them by the voice of the snow. I feel like I should specify somewhere that they don't know what their tasks are, they just know they have a job to do. To fulfill some unexplained purpose. Boom. Thought about it already. Names. Most Geists continue to use the name they were given in life. That single thread of an identity giving them hope that their rest is attainable, or that peace is attainable. Yeah, let's say peace. Peace is attainable. A few Geists choose their name from the people they encounter or from the environment around them. Some even adopt nicknames given to them by traveling companions. Okay, so that's the narrative of the race. Now into the mechanics. I haven't forgotten to discuss personal style versus kind of game style. I'm going to do these four first, and then we'll get into that topic. I'm just need to check something, as I believe it is the case. Yes. Geists are undead beings, and very little they can do changes this fact. Their focused minds and ethereal bodies are represented with the following traits. So, as I said, every people / race gets an ability score increase, an age, a size, and a speed trait. So we'll deal with these first. So ability score increase. Typically, this is a +2. In like your people's primary ability, and then their heritage will give them a +1 in something. Gives me ideas for characters, and I haven't even had a chance to see what the Ursid are yet. Oh, the Ursid are bear people. I took a look at the Manticore and the Slytherin and the Asathi and went, what if bears? But I'm glad they do. I'm glad this is stirring the creative juices. That was my hope. Obviously, any creator's hope when they make community content is that people will want to use it. This will be available for purchase at some point in the future, hopefully this year. I have a horrible track record of getting my products up on the Vault or up on the community content sites just because I don't have time to proof them and edit them and do layout and stick art in them. But I can dream, right? I can dream. Okay, so as an ethereal being, I'm kind of leaning towards Constitution for that otherworldly Constitution to give them, to represent, strength and vitality from beyond the grave. So I'm going to do with that. For those of you who do not know, because you're maybe not as familiar with the SRD and D&D 5e in general, Scarletlands in specific, so good. Connor Travis Arena will tell me when new things pop out. That's fair. I do try to post on the Discord as well in the Slurration Vault. I will try to post in the Slurration Vault channel and in the Scarletlands and Fenrilic channels of the Ice Path Discord server. And I'll probably tweet it as well. Yes, those of you who are maybe less familiar with 5th edition, unlike Scion, where you, for example, or Chronicles of Darkness, where you have attributes and skills, you make a pool. The 5th edition mechanic is you roll 1d20 and you add a number to that d20, and boom, that's it. Most of the numbers come from one of 6 abilities: Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. They're largely self-explanatory. Constitution's only real job in the game is to provide bonuses to hit points, resistances to things like poison and disease, and some rare few effects that require a Constitution saving throw to resist something other than poison or disease. So the higher the Constitution, the more ostensibly the healthier your character is. And that needs disabling. Exalted Essence is no longer running. I will make a mental note of that and let Onyx Path know. I'm reading the Exalted Essence manuscript right now, as usual. It was given out to backers, and it's pretty good. So yeah, higher your con, the healthier you are. And as Geists are undead, I feel that gives them some otherworldly essence. Increases by 2. Another way you can do this, something I've done on my Patreon, I believe, I can't remember by this point, is that you can have the primary ability score increase be like your in this instance, be your Constitution score increases by 1, and then your heritage, what used to be known as subrace, would increase another score by 2, or and An alternative, far less common route is so. For example, here, if I did your Constitution score increases by 1, and then in the heritage, I could then say, if I looked at it and thought, you know what, this heritage deserves to be beefier, but also wiser, for example, I could say your constitution. So in here, it would be your Constitution score increases by 1, and then under the heritage, it would say your Constitution score increases by 1, and your Wisdom score increases by 1. It's not as common. Even less common is just, you know, any ability score increases by 2 and any other ability score increases by 1, or any 3 ability scores increase by 1. There are a couple of ways. There are several ways you can handle it, but one increasing by 2 and one increasing by 1 is by far the most common. And if you're just getting started with making community content for the OGL and Scarredlands, it's or you know, Legend lore eventually, and maybe people of the Crossroads continent. I don't know how that's going to be handled. Easiest way is definitely 1 gets 2 plus 2, and 1 gets plus 1. Anyway, ignore that was a digression that was far too long. I do apologize. Age. Geists do not physically or visibly age as other creatures do. Being dead, they appear as mature as they did at the moment of death. No one knows how long a Geist can live for, as few fail to complete their assigned task. My mind has gone completely blank. As few take longer than 50 years to complete their assigned task. When a task is completed, a Geist returns to the snow, returns to the place it died in life, and passes on. Oh god, size. I do not work in sizes. So Geists are an average of I keep doing this to myself. I keep being like, hey, let's have a player people that could potentially be based on any of the existing player peoples. Let's do it this way. Geists are an average of 5 to 5.5 feet tall. But always resemble the people they were born to. You know, let's just put 5 to 6 feet tall. I don't like having the figures there. I'm sorry. I know that that's more how the book does it, but to my eyes, it just reads better if you have the word, not the numeral. But always resemble a distorted version of the people they were born to. Your speed is medium, etc., etc. Oh, right, I need an average weight. I don't work in weight. I don't work in pounds. So I'm just going to take the average weight of a human from the core rules and make it lighter because you're dead. I went too far. I went too far back. Curses. Right. Where's the random height weight table? There it is. So I think this is saying the average weight of a human would be about 130 pounds. Does that sound right? You know what? I could just consult the internet for this. I have that capability. I don't need the formulae, I just need the actual number. Okay, here we go. Apparently the ideal male body weight is around 106 to 110 pounds. So let's say 60 pounds. Because again, you are dead. I'm aware of the double though. And average 60 pounds. So this is sort of briefly touching on stuff. The established style guide is that you have the numerals here, 5 and 6, rather than the letters 5 and 6, the word, sorry, as well as, oh, you don't have pounds. As a strict, so for context and why I've done it this way, I am a trained proofreader and editor, and conventionally speaking, if it's a number of less than 10, you write it out. That's just kind of general style guidelines. If I were making this professionally, like if I were being paid to make a Scardlands product, I would stick with. You know what? I'll do it. I'll practice what I preach. As much as I hate it, there we go. Ignore anything I just said. We're all good. Moving on. Your size is medium. And then speed is generally 30 feet for a medium creature. Unless they're particularly small. Oops. Short, sorry. Your base, like dwarves, your base walking speed is 30 feet. I do kind of want to reflect the fact that they're a ghost in here. Or not really a ghost, but super light. It's not how you ignore difficult terrain. Ignore the first 10 feet of difficult terrain. I don't want it to be like your speed cannot be lowered by difficult terrain. But I do want to kind of draw upon the fact that they're not really moving in the normal sense of the word, and they're incredibly light, so they kind of float through it. They float everywhere without giving. Because you know what? I'm going to do something that you probably shouldn't do, but I want to do it anyway. Optional speed with your GM's permission. You have a flying speed of 20 feet, whilst you aren't wearing heavy armor. You know what? No. Let's do it this way. With your juice motion of a flying speed of 20 feet and may hover, this is reduced to 10 feet and you may not hover. That's a subordinate clause. That needs the word is. Whilst you are wearing heavy armor. So it's a lot of GMs have opinions about about people options with like inbuilt flying speeds. I'm personally okay with it. I don't see the problem with it. But usually the convention is you have a flying speed equal to your movement speed. Only when you are not wearing heavy armor and you don't get the hover ability. This is I'm trying with these two speed options to kind of evoke the implacability of like a pursuit predator. Like they're not fast, but they keep going. Hence the ignore the first 10 feet of difficult terrain. Like you still obey difficult terrain after a certain point, but you can push through some of it, or drift through it up to for the first 10 feet. And then if your GM allows you to fly, you can fly. You can fly slowly, but you can fly. And even if you're wearing heavy armor, you can still fly, but you're just 10 feet rather than the standard speed of 30 or the full speed of 20. Sorry, I have a message. I will just check this. It may be important. Okay. So that's what that's there for. Right, so this is the end of the, hey, this is what every player people option gets. Now we get into the exciting stuff, where I can sort of talk about following style guides rather than personal preference. I'm going to hydrate and then I will explain what I mean by that. Also the difference in Scarred Lands versus other 5e OGL compatible material. So, personal versus style. So if you open a rulebook, that rulebook will have been written with a style guide, or in accordance with a style guide, to ensure that no matter who is contributing to the material, it's all mostly compatible. It all adheres to the same mechanic, the same explanation of mechanics. It all keeps the same wording for rulings, etc., etc. And obviously, if you look at the player options in the core rules, there's a lot of variation, but some of the traits are the same. Like dark vision is always the same. It mostly anyway. And in the core rules, I think it's always 60 feet, but it always has the same restrictions, like you see in black and white, etc. I picked dark vision as an example because for my Patreon material, and this is an attempt to show you how to deal with unconscious bias when making your own materials for other people's game lines. I am fully aware that when I write a player people, or ancestor as I term it in my own material, the first thing I do is I figure out how that people kind of interacts and views the world. So usually, so examples of that will be dark vision because they can see in the dark, or proficiency in the perception skill, or recently with a people tied to kind of a very spirituous lifestyle, and that they actually can see spirits and interact with them. It was that you can see the spirits of objects and gain bonuses to kind of seeing through illusions and things that are hidden with magic because they don't have spirits. So when my initial reaction to the Geist is to be like, hey, how do they see the world? What can I do to what can I show to reflect that? My second thought is always going to be, that's not how Scarred Lands and the core rules do it. Is it strictly necessary? I don't have, because everything I write has that, because it's all for the same product, it's all for the same campaign guide, it's all for the same setting. So therefore, it makes sense that they all have that, and it's just how I write. But not everything has that here, so I have to be considerate of the material that I'm emulating and writing for, rather than not the material I want to write is the wrong way of phrasing it. I guess the material I'm used to writing, the style I'm used to writing in. I think that's clearer. So if you do write a lot of content for products that aren't your own, it can be incredibly useful to reflect on any kind of trends in that content and whether or not, especially if you're working with other people and you get feedback from them, if feedback is consistently pulling up the same things that aren't necessarily relevant to that content, to the product or project product you're writing for, project you're working on, whatever. It's definitely something to bear in mind, especially as like I'm writing this to be fully compatible with Scarred Lands and with the Frostlands of Fenric release. I'm hopefully writing it to the standard that you could look at it and mistake it for an official publication, were it not for the fact that it's on a community content site. So being aware, as a creator of kind of any kind, really, being aware of unconscious biases that you may be suffering from is definitely very useful. It's also one of those. It's far easier to say that you should do it than actually do it. Unfortunately, but it does help, I promise. So that aside, I didn't forget, so that was good. I have about half an hour left before I need to wrap up. So I believe I can finish the Geist today, and then do the Ursid next time. That was the wrong window. Okay, so the Geist is going to there will be heritages present for the Geist. So I'm going to put another heading in here with Geist heritages. Cable on my headset got in the way. Again, I haven't mentioned it this stream, but if you haven't been here before, importance of formatting when working on any document, I cannot overstate. Or the importance. I just minimized that window. Dang it. Hopefully that didn't break anything. That break anything? Did you see my desktop? You probably saw my desktop, right? Or a different window. That's weird. Interesting. It's kind of broken the capture with the crop. And now it's sort of fixed itself. I don't know what's going on with OBS. It's weird. Hopefully you didn't see anything you shouldn't have. Could someone please tell me if you did? And I'll let Honest Path know to be aware of that. Not that they can really do anything, but there we go. I can also check my recording afterwards as well. About an hour and 13 in. Okay, so having done that rather foolish thing, I'm just so used to minimizing windows at this point. Looks like... Oh, gotcha. I see what this is all about. So it's not heritages. Well, it both is and is not heritages. That's... So heritage is like cultural stuff, and then everything else is inbuilt. Okay, so this is going to be weird because they're not going to have heritage stuff because they don't really have culture. So I might get rid of that. No, you know what? For the sake of keeping everything together and consistent, I will figure out something. One thing to note about Scarred Lands versus the core rules and other 5e compatible things is that player peoples are a lot beefier than you might expect, to the point where there is advice in the Scarred Lands Player's Guide to, if you're using a core race if you're using a race or a people from the core rules that is not in the Player's Guide, it's like, hey, you might want to add an additional 2 racial or people traits to make it comparable with the ones presented here. Similarly, if you're using options from this book in non-Scarred Lands games, you might want to tone them down by removing a couple of traits, which makes my job as someone writing content harder, but there we go. So we've got the speed. I'll figure that out. Maybe they'll have some unique practices all of their very own. But I think we'll address the elephant in the room in the fact that they are undead. Nope, not that. Deathless nature. You have the undead keyword in place of the humanoid keyword. Creature type, there we go. That's the word I'm looking for. And yes, I'm aware this breaks healing spells. Don't worry, I have sort of an idea how to fix that. You do not need to eat, sleep, or rest, although you may choose to do so. Magic cannot put you to sleep, and in place of being aged magically, you lose 1 hit die per decade you would be aged, a minimum of 1. And then each I'm going to say subrace because I can't think of the word off the top of my head. Each subrace will have its own way of kind of consuming not food per se, but an equivalent, and of healing, I think. But you gain resistance to necrotic damage, so there's that. Resistance to... Let's say poison damage. You can still rot, after all, even if you are dead. So that's 1. I think, by and large, there's like between 5 and 6. 1 of which is usually weapon training. Oh, yeah, there we go. You have advantage on saving throws against poison and disease. And resistant to poison damage. Yeah, and then there's usually some kind of training, which you wouldn't really have. So in place of that, sapient undead. You have advantage on saving throws versus being turned. Effects such as the turn undead feature. Additionally, if you, whilst you are turned, right, I believe. Sorry, it's just easier for me to fetch my actual rulebook rather than flick through the PDF for the thing. I believe whilst turned you can't do anything but dash, right? That sounds correct. Where is turn undead? There it is. Yes. Anyway, additionally, whilst you are turned, you may act as normal, but you make all ability checks and attack rolls. But you have disadvantage on all ability checks and attack rolls. Because you're still thrown by the feature, but you're not running horrendously. I should also specify you are immune to the destroy undead feature. There we go. Just in case that ever comes up, because you don't want a cleric party member to be like, turn undead. Ah, I'm dead. Because I mean, technically, it only applies to CR to things with challenge ratings. But there might be some weird homebrew thing out there that assigns player characters challenge ratings. So I'm just going to put that in there as future-proofing. Allow it to play well with other supplements, that kind of thing. That's not really anything decent, but it's just that trait's more there just to head off turn undead, interacting poorly with a player character. But it could be useful if you come up against NPCs with turn undead. So especially if they're like, hey, that's an undead monster, let's go after them. Usually something to do with skills. Obviously languages I need to consider what language you speak, although it might just be you speak any one common and any one other language. Where's the weapons table? Helpful. Not. Does Yukman's have new weapons in it? Let's find out. It sure does not. Okay. Let's see. Nope. Stop underlining. There we go. Remembered weapons training. You are proficient in any 3 weapons of your choice. Only one of which may be a martial weapon. So I do want to reflect the fact that anyone can become a Geist. and reflect kind of the choices you made in life. So it might also just be have remembered skills and you gain proficiency in one skill of your choice. Yeah, let's go with that. That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. You have proficiency in one skill of your choice. Let's say in one skill and with one set of tools of your choice. And then languages, and then the subrace. You can speak, read, and write common, and oh hey, is there like an undead specific language in Scotland? Not particularly. Maybe just one other common language of your choice? Just one language of your choice. It's either that or just go like primordial, but I don't think that really gels. So I'll just put one language of your choice. Two, three, four. And then we do like 2 things for each of the things. And then the heritages, and we'll be golden. So that actually needs to be heading 2. So what was it? Spirits of exposure, spirits of predation, spirits of starvation. I guess I should just put Geists just to tie it all in without introducing an extra word at this late stage of the thing. And then they also need to be under heritages. Born of travelers caught out in terrible storms or lost to the trackless wastes. What was my description of them up here? Geists of exposure are the more spectral ones. Gotcha. Geists of exposure drift through the world as spectral reminders of death. Ability score increase because they need a +1. Right, so con's already up, so that's fine. So these are people who have just wisdom potentially because they've like learned the lessons that got them killed in life and are more aware of how to survive. It's the best idea I've got right now. Your wisdom score increases by 1. Spectral body. Whenever you strike, whenever you reduce a creature to 0 hit points, you may roll one of that creature's hit dice and gain hit points equal to the number rolled plus your Constitution modifier. You gain the humanoid keyword for a number of hours equal to the number rolled. So you kill something, you kind of take a tiny bit of that thing, and for a short period of time you count as living, so you can gain the benefit of healing spells, basically. If you go a week without reducing a creature to 0 hit points, you lose 1. Ooh, no. Let's just use the exhaustion mechanic. You gain 1 level of exhaustion at the end of every long rest until you reduce a creature to 0 hit points. I'm going to specify without reducing a small or larger creature here, just so that you don't carry like a bag of rats and you kill one every week. Do I need another thing? I feel like I should probably have 2 things here. Just looking at the examples in the player's guide. Examples in Yugman's would be better, admittedly. No, it's ability score, 1 thing, and then your heritage gives you a couple of other things. Okay, so I guess ability score and then your, like, how you interact with the world as an undead creature, and then under heritage, Geists of exposure. Knack for survival. You have proficiency in the survival. Hang on. I can just look at examples for how to say this. You gain proficiency in the survival skill. And may attempt a survival wisdom check with a to find shelter for you and any number of allies. DC for this check is equal to 10 plus the number of allies. So let's say you gain proficiency in the survival skill and may attempt a survival wisdom check to find food and shelter for you and any number of allies. The DC for this check is equal to 10 plus number of allies, and it takes you no more than 1 hour to find these things on a successful roll. Check. Sorry, check. It's not a roll. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just counting stuff in my head. So there's a slightly different approach to doing it in Yuggerman's versus the Player's Guide, I've discovered. And Yuggerman's is the most recent document. So I'm kind of tempted to stick with how that's done things. So I'm going to get rid of this, I think. I think that's good. Oh no, I see what I'm looking. I see what I've done. I see what I've done. Where is undo? There we go. These are treated as heritage things rather than like they're just repeated. So whoop and whoop and whoop. There we go. Did I? I did. Undo, undo, undo. I did accidentally delete that for whatever reason. Why does it keep... Oh, no, it's not deleting it. I just couldn't see the... Because there's no line break, I wasn't parsing it as two separate things. That's my bad. That is my bad. Okay, we're all good there. So I need, like, one more thing, and then we'll move on to the next Geist option, or not. Actually, I will wrap up after this one more thing, I think. And I'll leave you all in anticipation for the next stream and finishing off the Geists and starting the Ursid. Okay, so some kind of training or cultural practice, without it being cultural practice because they don't have civilization of their own, that holds true across all Geists of exposure. I should probably have some damage resistance here as well for the spectral body, but I'm not. Let's rename this, I guess. Hmm. Spectre of Death. There we go. You look spectral, but you are not. Guys, anyway, Geist of Exposure. I feel like maybe something relating to medicine. I don't want it to be another skill, though. I feel like that's the easy way out. Hello, Plastic Age players. So expo, maybe some mild weather effect. It's not really a cultural practice though. And this is the problem. I've got a narrative, but I can't pin down the final mechanic for it. Because I don't want to be like, pick a damage type and gain resistance to that, because they already have resistance to poison damage. And stacking resistances is a bit of a slippery slope. Especially as someone who is a forever GM with a party full of damage resistances. It throws off your combat calculations no end, let me tell you. I feel like just 2 individual ones is fine, but I need that final one. I guess advantage on a certain kind of skill check. Not survival, because that one's already there. You know what? Geist exposure? Medicine checks. Advantage on medicine checks to... Do I stabilize? Do I is like stabilize and ascertain cause of death, or just ascertain cause of death? What was the only name I can think of is something like Victim of the Elements, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to that. Ooh. Idea. I don't know if it's a good one. Let's type it out and see if it works. Victim of the Elements. As a reaction, when you take any amount of cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage, you may make a how to phrase this? Attempt a Constitution saving throw. If you succeed, you deal an equal amount of damage of the same damage type divided equally among any number of creatures within 10 feet of you. Creatures that you can see within 10 feet. That you can see within 10 feet. Because if you say creatures that you can see, it kind of... I mean, I could specify here, like, that aren't behind total cover, but if they're behind total cover, you can't see them. So I'm getting around that kind of wording thing. If you fail, you must include yourself in the number of creatures. You know what? You must include yourself as a target. That's a lot better way. That's a much cleaner way of saying it. Does that work after my initial enthusiasm? As a reaction, when you take any amount of cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage, you may attempt a Constitution saving throw. If you succeed, you deal an equal amount of the same damage type divided equally among any number of creatures that you can see within 10 feet. If you fail, you must include yourself as a target. Do I restrict this to like, you may use this feature or trait a number of times equal to your Constitution's modifier? You know, I don't know, because you're not actually preventing the damage. I need to specify DC, obviously. Ten plus the damage taken, or 10 plus half the damage taken? Because I'm just thinking, like, if you get hit with say a dragon's breath weapon, for example, you could decide to throw some of that back at the dragon. You could attempt the saving throw, and if you do, you know, all well and good. The dragon takes the amount you've just taken. If you don't, you halve it, which I feel is like kind of cool, and it's a very double-edged feature, especially if you're trying to not redirect but reflect, I guess, a large amount of damage at once. And it's a reaction anyway, so you can't try to deflect the damage you'll take from failing the saving throw. I think that's okay. It's a bit weird trying to do like a heritage-based trait for people that don't really have a culture and are very much individualistic. But equally, I do have a degree in arguing, and I could argue that Geists of Exposure have learned how to control themselves to some degree as a people to produce this effect, which is very specious. But there we go. I mean, I'm happy with it. I think it works. Obviously, I'm going to be editing it anyway at some point. So, before I do the Monday meeting notes outro recap, let's go over what we've covered today. Today we have covered most of a player people option. Some stumbling, some stuttering, but we've got an undead player people. Sorry, I knew I'd slip up eventually. With some hopefully cool narrative lore behind them, as well as interesting mechanics. Obviously, being an undead option has its own drawbacks, and trying to deal with that through the like trait that each of the sub peoples will get to help with healing, because you know some people don't like to make potions with their money, because that's really I should say, yeah, if you're playing an undead character, the consistent healing is potions of, and that's really it. So if you have a party that isn't capable of generating that for whatever reason, or if you're in a low gold campaign, I don't want to penalize too badly, so there is a workaround. You just have to get something to 0 hit points to count as living. And that's probably a mechanic I'm going to keep. Maybe not reduce a creature to 0 hit points for all of them. It might be when you do something else, or when you use a certain ability that you can only use once per long rest, for example. Just to mixed up a little bit, but there we go. So I have discussed also the ability on the importance of self-reflection, recognizing unconscious biases when writing content, especially with regards to like differing style guides between game lines. Touched a bit on my confusion about some of the how to phrase this. Some of the layout in Yugman's, I guess. It makes sense, don't get me wrong, it does make sense, but at first glance it's not necessarily intuitive. But there we go. It works perfectly fine. Now I know how it works. And kind of still trying to explain how tying narrative with like the pursuit predator analogy of the Geists continue to move, they're just maybe not as fast as they might be if you go with the optional speed option. The need to, while yes, have a cool idea for a player race, player people, dang it, I did it again, but also balance it out with potential rules conflicts, like a player character being hit with turn undead accidentally. It still has some effect, but not as much as it ordinarily would. Also with NPCs using turn undead potentially against this character, it still has an effect. It will still do something, but it won't make that character unplayable. And it is also specifically turn and not the frightened condition, because the frightened condition is distinct and something completely separate, and I didn't want them to be immune to the frightened condition. Speaking of being frightened, the Monday meeting... That was a heck of a segue. The Monday meeting notes, again, does announce quite boldly that the next Kickstarter will be Squeaks in the Deep, which is underground civilizations, mega dungeons, and also rats and mice and scions, or psionic characters, which I'm pretty excited to see how that's handled in the Realms of Pugmire rule set. It looked pretty cool. Pretty excited about it myself. So that goes live on before I forget, Plastic Age Plays, Nightbot's still programmed with Exalted Essence. You love the Psionic rules, you're biased. I wonder what that means. Well, again, in my personal opinion, they can't be any worse than the psionic rules introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. The psionic classes in that, subclasses, they feel bland. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that is just me, I will admit that. But yes, Squeaks in the Deep, Friday, 2 p.m? Yes, Friday, July the 9th at 2 p.m. So if you are on the channel after that point, Wizards gave us a low bar. They really did. You will probably see Nightbot dropping links to the Kickstarter. Certainly, the next episode of this show. Which, reminder for those of you interested, it is fortnightly, so it should, or bi-weekly if you prefer. So it should be the 20th of July, barring unforeseen circumstances, where we'll finish up the Geist and start the Ursid. So I would expect Nightbot to be dropping links to the Kickstarter throughout that. I'm assuming it's a 4-week period as usual. Also, the next Trinity Continuum Aeon book is out on this week. Rich Bastard's Guide to Magic is up for pre-order at some point for May 20th on DriveThruRPG. 30th anniversary of Vampire the Masquerade. All of the links to the Onyx Path Virtual Gaming Convention panels are certainly the ones that are live on YouTube at the moment are in the Monday meeting notes as well. Or if you just go to YouTube and go on the Onyx Path channel, they're there for your viewing pleasure. Standard links to podcasts and other virtual media. And as I say, with in terms of project status, I think the most relevant Scarred Lands one is the Spirogos stuff and layout. I think I had a quick glance. Sorry, I'm just checking. The Trinity Continuum title is available on Wednesday. The advanced PDF, by the way, for those interested in Trinity Continuum. Yes, Spirogos is in layout and Dead Man's Rust is in art direction. Which, if the art in the book is going to be as cool as the art on the cover that they showed for the Kickstarter, that's pretty hype. I don't think any extra Scarred Lands products have been snuck in without any announcement. I think we're all still pretty good on that front. So, if you have come into at the end and you're like, hey, yeah, the art is nuts, you love it. I can imagine it is. And you're like, hey, what's this person written? These Geists seem interesting. Did I say Calder Mountains on the MMN? No. I think I saw it a couple of weeks ago. Oh, the new Vigil Watch series. Yes, that's there. That's in editing right now, so that's pretty hype. Oh, it's because I was looking. Oh, it's a consistency issue. That's weird. I assume it's because two different people have the list. OBS, why are you like this? Are we back? We're not back. Cool. OBS has apparently decided not to reconnect. Unless I have reconnected and OBS is not telling me I'm reconnected. Can anyone confirm or deny? Nope. Attempting to reconnect again. YouTube, this is exclusive content. There we go. Yes, Vigil Watch Calder Mountains was too much for the stream to take, apparently. No, what it is, if anyone does check the Monday meeting notes, everything that is in... if anyone does check the Monday meeting notes, anything that is before indexing has the game name after it in brackets. Everything that's in art direction onwards has the game line before it with a colon. So that's where I was skimming for Scarred Lands or SL. And turns out it's after instead. But as I say, it's probably because several different people have this list and it's a compilation of all of the individual streams. But yes, Vigil Watch Calder Mountains, definitely something to keep an eye on in editing. I think that's everything. So yeah, if you do want to watch the start of this episode and the rest of this season, in fact, as you can see, my name is Ryan or Comrade Bubbles. My screen name is Comrade Bubbles pretty much everywhere. And if you happen to go to YouTube, happen to type in Comrade Bubbles, and happen to navigate to that YouTube channel, I don't have a fancy schmancy YouTube link. There is a playlist of all the previous episodes. If you want to watch this episode, like later today, because you want to watch the start of it, you will have to subscribe to the Twitch YouTube channel. To the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/theonyxpath, as there is a week's exclusivity period for subscribers before the video goes public. After that week is up, I upload this video to my YouTube channel. It does not go up on the Onyx Path channel. They were super kind and let me do that. Where, as I've said, there is a playlist of all of the previous episodes of both this season and of every other season of this show that I've done. This is 6, so there's 2, 3, and 4, because 5 was on my personal channel. I do also stream on Twitch as Comrade Bubbles, and I will be streaming after this, in fact, in about 25 minutes' time. But I think that's everything, so I'm going to say thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have any lingering questions, please do feel free to follow me over to my own channel, as I say, about half an hour, or hit me up on Twitter, it's Comrade Bubbles, or on the Onyx Path Discord server. I do lurk there a unhealthy amount, let's say. And I'll be back in 2 weeks with more of this. I'll let the post roll do its thing and let you know about the other content on the channel. And hopefully you've enjoyed. So from me to you and your loved ones, please do stay safe, please do stay healthy, please do stay wholesome, and have a fantastic fortnight. Hopefully you'll come back. Where is my cursor? Goodbye.